Hello, welcome to SUGHYD Hyderabad event. I'm Yamini Punyoti Mutevi and here Vishal Kera co-hosts this session, and today we are having a session on Sitecore Forms for static site generation in Sitecore Headless by the speaker Manoj Chopkar. Over to you, Manoj. Thank you.
Yes, hello all. Welcome to this session. Let me share my screen. Uh, all right, do let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, it is visible.
All right. Hello all. Good evening. Welcome to this session. So today's session is on Sitecore Forms with static site generation in Sitecore Headless application. So let's begin with this today's session. Give me a minute. All right, about me. So my name is Manoj Chopkar. I'm currently working with Aspire Infolabs as senior software engineer. I'm I specialize in Sitecore. I'm working on Sitecore versions 9.3 and above with SXA, with headless applications, and as well as on XM Cloud solutions. So yeah, that's all about me. So let's walk through the agenda of today's session. What all we are going to cover in this today's session. So first we'll have the introduction of Sitecore Forms. Although I'm sure, like pretty sure, like you all be aware of what is Sitecore Forms. We'll have a quick introduction of Sitecore Forms. Then we'll uh, then we'll look into the various pre-rendering options of Next.js application. So there are various pre-rendering options of Next.js, out of which we'll have an overview or the comparative analysis of SSR versus SSG. Then we'll look into the various options available for headless solutions, in which, by the way, in which we can use the Sitecore Forms in our headless solution. So there are basically three ways in which you can do it. So one is like one is using npm form package, second is using embeddable form frameworks, and third is third party applications forms. We can call it like example, we can take it like Sitecore Sends or Salesforce form. We'll have a deep dive in Sitecore embeddable forms. We'll look into the implementation, how can we implement it, and common errors and solutions for it. Then we'll have a quick overview of Sitecore XM Cloud forms option and the conclusion. All right. So then what is Sitecore forms? So I hope like you might be aware of it all, but let's have a quick overview. So Sitecore form is a tool that allows you to create a web forms on your site without the help of assistants or of developers. It allows you to create custom forms, manage data, manage and analyze the performance. And where it is situated in the Sitecore Launchpad. You can find the Sitecore Forms option in your Sitecore Launchpad. So yeah, that's all about Sitecore Forms, and we won't have much. We won't go much in it, but let's see the difference between SSG and SSR now. Like what is SSG and what is SSR, and why do we need it? So SSG and SSR. SSG stands for static site generation, and SSR stands for server side rendering. So what? So in SSG, the HTML pages are created during the build time itself. And for SSR, it renders the page on the basis of every server response. So basically, whenever a page is hit, so server will get back the response, and then you will be able to get those data. So this is SSR. Rebuild time for SSG and SSR. So rebuild time for SSG and SSR compared to SSG, rebuild time is much higher because for SSG, the entire application needs to be built. So that's the reason like the rebuild time for the SSG application is more compared to SSR. Since SSR means like will have each page gets rendered on the basis of the user request. The user hits the request, it gets back to the server, and then server brings back the data and display it. So when should we use SSG application and when to use SSR application? Ideally, it is preferable to use SSG application for large sites with little dynamic content, or and whenever you need a dynamic content, so you can make use of SSR applications. So user request again. So user request server responds with pre-built HTML on every user request. So as we already discussed, like for SSG, the pages are built at the build time itself. So therefore, the server whenever it gets server respond with the pre-built pages. Compared to SSG, SSR in SSR the server processes request and generates HTML dynamically. So whenever a user hits a page, so it gets back so server gets back the data and then generates it generates the HTML and it gets displayed. Content update. So if you see the content update, so for content updates, the site core, the entire site need to be rebuilt compared to SSR, since SSR is being used for dynamic content. So we can, like for SSR, you'll get always the for that content update it faster. Like you'll get the updated content during the site itself. Load time. So the load time for SSG application is high. Sorry, the generally faster load time due to pre-built content. Since the pages are built during build time itself, so the application gets load faster compared to SSR. Since for SSR, we'll have to hit like get back to server and wait for the server to respond back and then generate it. So the load time for SSG is less compared to SSR. So now we have seen the difference between SSG and SSR. The key differences, there are many other differences out of which we have like I have took few differences only. These are all the basic like use cases or requirements where we can think over of using SSG or SSR application, when to use and when not to use. Then now if we are having two options available with Next.js pre-rendering options like SSG and SSR, then why do we need SSG? So let's see the advantages of using an SSG applications. So first is improved performance. So the improved performance itself states like the pages are built during the build time itself. So thereby the load time is less, thereby thereby the load time is less. Therefore, it increases the performance of the site as well. Then the second parameter is like SEO, how it enhances the SEO is because again, if the pages are already built, so it helps the search engine crawlers bots to easily crawl the website and then thereby enhancing the SEO of the particular site as well. Then reduce cost. Reduce cost is the important parameter or important concept in which like we can think of having an SSG application. Since the application is already built during the build time, it requires less resources, it consumes less resources. So let's suppose if your application is hosted on Vercel. So if you are using an SSR application, so every time a user hits the page, it will get back to the server. Server will bring back the data. Again, it will consume some Vercel resources. Thereby, like it might happen like sometimes you might exceed the your particular Vercel plan limit, and then it might hit your billing cost as well. So thereby, if you are using SSG application, it is like pretty much say easy because it reduces the cost since the pages are already available during the build time. So thereby, no server response. It helps reducing cost. Scalability is another concept again being used. Scalability, like you can say it like because serving the static files is easier and most cost effective, allowing it allows to handle the large amount of traffic with minimum resources, thereby making the application highly scalable. Because if there are multiple requests on this particular site, so it might impact your site as well, so thereby increasing the scalability of the site. So before we move to the implementation part or understand the implementation part of the Sitecore forms, let's first understand like how the Sitecore forms, how the data in the Sitecore flows when you're using the Sitecore forms in a headless solution. So if you can see, like in this screenshot, we'll try to understand with the help of this screenshot. So whenever a page is hit on the browser, so browser gets the layout service data. let's get the layout service data from the Sitecore. Okay, so if you're not aware, in the headless solution, we do have two ways to get there, like two layout services. One is using, like, you can get data using the layout services. One is using REST layout service, and second is using GraphQL. So browser gets data using the layout service. Sitecore in return, gives the layout data plus the additionally plus form schema data. So whenever the layout data plus form schema is received, the JS renders the form schema to HTML, and then users then fill out the form, and again the data is posted back to the Sitecore. Uh, then it execute the submit action or save or perform the another steps, and again then bring back the data, and same goes on. So if you see it here, so whenever it execute the submit action or save from next step, it bring back data submit result plus next step schema if there are multi steps in it. And again, once the Sitecore brings back the data, it again with the help of JS, it renders the next form. It again post, then again we post back the data, and this flows goes on. So in this way, the data flow between a browser and Sitecore in the headless application. All right. So now we are seeing like how the data flows in Sitecore headless application when using Sitecore Forms. So I already mentioned like there are three ways like in which you can use the forms in Sitecore application. So using Sitecore Forms in headless application, there is a way using npm form package. So I've already discussed this in one of my sessions, so I won't go much deep in this part. So we'll have an overview of how like when to use npm form package, and we'll look out like common issues which we usually face while implementing forms in using the npm form package. So when to use npm form package. So ideally you must consider it when your application is SSR. So the basic requirement for using the npm form package is with the help of Sitecore Forms is your application must be SSR and you must be using REST layout service. So already mentioned like there are two ways of getting data in Sitecore. You can get using the REST layout service or GraphQL. So your application, so for this using npm form package, you must use the REST layout service plus your application must be SSR. Common errors, and we'll discuss the solutions as well. So this is the common error which usually occurs when you are implementing Sitecore Forms within your headless application. So this is the anti-forgery token, cookie token issues. The first thing foremost is like this usually happens because your application is SSG. The so you can like if your application is SSG, you might face this issue. So you'll have to change your application to SSR in order to make the forms working. So the fix for it is you'll have to convert the application from SSG to SSR. Also check for the layout service what you're using. If you're using the GraphQL or REST layout service, it works with REST layout service. So you'll have to update the layout service as well. If you're using the GraphQL, so you'll have to change the GraphQL layout service to REST layout service. Additionally to that, your application must be converted from from SSG to SSR. Now, like if there is a way now, if there is a way to display forms in Sitecore headless solution, then why do we need SSG? Like why are we discussing like with the help of static site generation we need it? So let's suppose if you want to optimize cost. So as we discussed the benefits of SSG. So in order to utilize those benefits, we might think of having our application converting it to SSG. So then how it is achievable using the using Sitecore Forms in your headless application? So we'll discuss this now. So to use Sitecore Forms in your headless application, you can make use of Sitecore embeddable form framework. This works with SSR and SSG application as well. So because there is a way of using forms, Sitecore Forms with SSG, sorry, SSR, we'll be discussing like what like how we can achieve this achieve the Sitecore, like how can you display Sitecore Forms with the help of SSG using Sitecore embeddable forms framework. There are again scenarios in which you can achieve this, like you can achieve the display the forms in Sitecore Headless application. You can either create a two routes for it, like form for one which is using the Sitecore Forms, and second your application for a second route for SSG to render all those pages. So there can be a hybrid approach of using the using hybrid approach of Next.js rendering app rendering options. Second way is using a Sitecore embeddable form framework. We are going to discuss the Sitecore embeddable form framework approach, like how can we achieve it, how can we achieve when your application is SSG, and how can you display forms in your headless application. So then what is Sitecore embeddable form framework? So let's discuss this. So Sitecore embeddable form frameworks lets you display Sitecore forms on any of the web pages. So it works with, it helps to display forms that even, well, even if your Sitecore, if your application is not Sitecore as well. So it can work in other applications as well. What does Sitecore embeddable forms use? Embeddable form framework use? It make use of late library. What is late library? It's a JavaScript template library. So that enables the creation of template using JavaScript tag literals and tag functions. You did not need to be worry of this late library and all. This might be just you should have an overview of it, like what is being used. So that's the reason we are discussing this. You might have to use it in the scripts. You might have to implement it. There is a rare scenario where you can use it, but yes. So you should have an overview. So that's the reason we are discussing this. Uh, it uses Tailwind CSS. Again, if you're it's a CSS framework with comprehensive sets of highly reusable classes. It's similar to Bootstrap, but with some enhanced functionalities. So it uses Tailwind CSS. It supports accessibility. Again, it also supports narration tool like screen readers and all screen readers. Also make sure also remember, like whenever you're using embeddable form framework, it doesn't affect any functionality or styles on the page. So that's all about embeddable form framework. So let's see how we can implement these embeddable form frameworks in our application, in our headless application. Before that, let's see the prerequisites. What are the prerequisites of using the Sitecore embeddable form frameworks in your headless application? So the first prerequisite is your Sitecore should be 10.3 and above. You must be using Sitecore version 10.3 and above or later. And the second prerequisite is you must be using Sitecore headless service 21.0.0 or later. So these are the two prerequisites in which case the Sitecore embeddable form framework will work. So then how can we implement Sitecore forms using Sitecore embeddable form frameworks? So we'll have to go to Sitecore website and download this Sitecore embeddable form framework from the Sitecore website. Then once you download it, you'll get a zip package. Extract it. You'll have two files, one folder and one file. The file name is Sitecore embeddable forms.umd.js file, which you will have to copy it to your web application directory. So whether if your application is on I need www, you'll have to copy it there. Then you'll have to copy the CSS folder to the root directory of your web application to the same location. Remember not to not to create any folders, or don't try to change the name of the any of the files here. If you try to change the name of any of the files, then it might create again issue for you while implementing this. So that's a pro tip while implementing it. Then with the help of this, you can use Sitecore embeddable forms. Once you copy this or both the CSS for one CSS folder and the JS file, with the help of this, you can make use of Sitecore embeddable forms. Then how can you make use of it? So on the web page where you want to display the forms, you'll have to add a script tag that refers to the embeddable form script. We'll see this in our further slide. How can we refer it and how can we add those scripts in? Uh, how can we add it and how can we display forms? So basically, again, we have seen like it uses the late library, so templating library. So using late, they are create like we do have a tag using a tag name SCEF form tag, which will have to use it to specify the Sitecore form item. So let's see the HTML implementation. Let's see first the basic implementation of Sitecore embeddable forms, and then we can check it out. So this is a basic HTML implementation of Sitecore embeddable forms. Like if you can see over the screen, like you can see we have used SCEF form tag. This is something which embeddable form tag it is. So we are using the SCEF form. Then we are passing the form ID here. And then we are referring to the embeddable form script from here itself. So in order to like while using our headless application, you'll have to create a JSON rendering out of it. You can't directly use the HTML file in it. So in order to make your JSON rendering, your make a form rendering dynamic, you'll have to like create a first a JSON rendering in Sitecore application. Then you'll have to remember whenever you create a JSON rendering in layout service play in rendering content resolver, make use of forms resolver. There is a resolver name for especially for forms. Make use of the form resolver there, and then you can create a TSX implementation this way. So this is a dynamic. So this Next.js implementation is a dynamic implementation. It will work for every forms in your in your page. So here, if you can see, we are passing the form ID. So you need not to pass a form ID everywhere. So you can create a dynamic approach. You can create a dynamic way of using it. So if you can probably try to read this code, you might get is like from props. We are trying to get the form item ID, and we are using this form item ID within the SCF form again form tag. Again, the same way we are rendering it form ID itself, and then we are making use of this literal. Uh, we are making use of this to we are referring to the script tag embeddable from script tag to display it. So this is the dynamic approach or dynamic way of rendering forms in your headless application with SSG. So points to consider when to use like embeddable forms. So the first thing is like you should be using 10.3.0 or later versions, and then you must be using Sitecore Headless Service 21.0.0 or later. Remember, like whenever you are using Sitecore embeddable form framework, it doesn't support XGB exclusive features like trigger goal summit actions, performance tracking, robot detections, etc. So common known errors. So probably if you can see, like there is a blue line over here. These two are this don't consider it as a one error. It's a, these two, the both these the on the right and left there are two errors mentioned over here. So first thing, the towards the left side you can see like error named like failed to fetch connection, failed to connect. So whenever you're trying to use embeddable forms framework within your Sitecore application, and let's suppose you are having some custom submit actions, you won't be able to directly submit the form. So this will fail in that scenario when you are trying to use custom submit actions in within your forms. So the reason behind this is whenever a request gets hit, so when you're using custom submit action with embeddable forms, whenever you try to submit the forms, so there is a SC item ID, this parameter which gets passed null. So that's the reason the request doesn't get fulfilled, and then the form doesn't get submit. So in order to fix it, like you'll have to modify the embeddable form framework script directly. We have already raised a request in Sitecore. So Sitecore has registered it as a feature request and might be available in your upcoming releases for Sitecore embeddable forms. But for now, you'll have to update the Sitecore embeddable form script so that it can pass the item ID on submit. So if you are using Sitecore embeddable form framework and if you are not aware like how to do it, you can connect with me and I can share you the updated script for it, like how we can add those item ID within the embeddable form framework script. And the next error which you are saying right now is this a loader type of error. This usually comes up when like this usually comes up because like you have either changed the JavaScript file name or a CSS file name, or either you haven't placed it in the correct location. Again, a pro tip, like try like add those same file within your Next.js application as well within the public folder so that it will work for you. So this is basically if you rename like if you change the file name or something, you'll land up in this error, the loader issue. So now we have seen all the we have seen we have taken a deep dive in the Sitecore embeddable form framework. So let's see like what all other ways are there of using forms in Sitecore headless application. So we can make use of third-party integrations, third-party integration forms. You can like there are various third-party integration. There are third parties from available. So first is like you can make use of Sitecore Site again. We can make use of Forms, which is against a product from Salesforce. You can use Bravo, another marketing tools as well, which provide forms. Then how can you implement these third party integration forms? So this usually comes up like adding script to your Next.js application. Directly you can inject the script in your Next.js application and then use it. Although there are various ways to like you can use Sitecore site in your applications. If you're considering using Sitecore send forms, there are various way to do it, but one of the ways using the scripts. So if you can see over the screen, this is a Sitecore send script, integration script, which we can use it over or your headless application and use Sitecore send forms. So directly we can insert this script and make use of the particular form. And yeah, then that's all. Then Sitecore XM Cloud form option, whatever we have seen till now is not valid for Sitecore XM Cloud. Okay, these already were these already exist only for the Sitecore headless solutions, not for XM Cloud solution. If you are using Sitecore headless with SSG and SSR, that things only apply. You can use Sitecore embeddable forms, and then other second way is using the npm form package. For Sitecore XM Cloud, there are another way. There is a XM Cloud form options available for it, and we can have a deep dive it later in the later sessions. But yes, this doesn't applies for the Sitecore XM Cloud form option. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. If there are any questions, you're free. Feel free to ask it.
Yeah, we have few queries, I guess, in in the chat. I think already Raman has answered. But still, if you want to look at the chat section, and guys, floor is open for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask Manoj now. Okay, I have a
Manoj,
question. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. This SSR is there, right? So it's only applicable for Sitecore, or it's a common concept that Sitecore adopts?
It's a common concept that Sitecore adapts. And there are like you can make use of ISR as well. You can use various like pre-rendering options of Next.js application. So I out of which Sitecore use SSR application, Sitecore use SSR for you like implementing the Sitecore forms option using the npm form package way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Which is available, this SSR concept available in Next.js, right? Okay.
Yes.
I am
Yes.
aware about SSD. Okay.
There are various option. ISR is also there. CSR is there in Next.js.
Yeah,
SSR,
CSR I
SSG.
am aware. Yeah,
Yeah.
SSG and I yeah. Okay, fine, got it.
Yeah, Manoj, how complex the forms can we build using this embedded form and other things? Because for simple forms, we do things Sitecore forms and other things, but the complex forms also does it allow with third-party integrations and the embeddable framework?
Yes, you can make use of it using that. It allows using Sitecore embeddable forms. You can do it as well.
Okay, great.
Right. Any
So
other questions?
Sitecore form rendering, everything we will be creating in SGS only, right? Like apart from using that framework, what control Sitecore has? Any content items we can store so that we can get those content items to form ID?
So you're trying to make use of Sitecore forms in your application, right? So
Mhm.
when you're trying to make use of embeddable form framework, so it's
Mhm.
basically you're trying to use Sitecore forms only. So for that, uh, you have to create a symbol the same way we have used like you create a rendering in Sitecore. You can make use of Sitecore
Mhm.
rendering, and then you can, like I have showed you the Next.js implementation. How can you make it
Yeah,
dynamic? Like so
correct,
that
correct. Yeah, yeah.
way you can make use of it and then use it.
Okay, through rendering, the prop state
Yeah.
rendering, we can get
Yes.
everything. Okay,
Yes. Yes. Basically, you'll have to create a JSON rendering of it and then make use of it.
okay. Thanks.
It supports multiple themes also, right? Multiple themes and multiple multiple pages forms.
Yes. Yes.
I, okay, so I was just comparing this with existing forms which we used till 9 or something. So how different is this from those forms? Not the embeddable framework, but generally, like why are we first considering this into the integration with the existing forms?
So let's suppose like if you have like you have a Sitecore forms and you want to use it right in your application. So there might be
Hmm.
various requirements. So one of it like is like using Sitecore forms only in your applications. So then in that way you can consider of using this. Okay. And the second thing is like again uh, with the help of this like using forms in headless solution you need not to like again make another external integration or something to make the form working in your application directly.
Okay. What is the first one which we're talking about? First form, like not the SSG and SSR. Before that, NPM form package we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Could you please explain more on that?
Yes, so on npm form package, so basically if you try to like if you have gone through the sitecore documentation, you can see like there is a way of using a form rendering in that, in which npm form package is one of the way. Like I already discussed, like there are for if you're trying to use sitecore forms with ss like your in your headless application, and for using npm form package way, you must have your application to be ssr. You must be using rest layout service. So npm form package is like what is npm is like node package manager. Okay, so basically
Yes.
we are installing some packages in it. So that's the way.
DLLs,
So
yes. Okay.
whenever we try to implement a sitecore forms, we'll have to like install two packages, sitecore forms and react forms, two packages of sitecore to make the forms working. So that's the one way. That is the npm form package way. Okay, you can name it like JSS form way, but an ideal term will be like using an npm package. So that's the
Okay,
npm
okay.
package.
But to customize more things, we use this embeddable framework, correct?
No, you can use same, like you can use same, you can use npm form package as well. If you're trying to customize or something, you can use npm form package only and only if you want to like change the rendering options, like app rendering options of Next.js to ss from ssr to ssg. So then in that way, then there is no other way of implementing Sitecore forms only within your headless
Okay.
application. So to
Okay.
overcome this, you can make use of this Sitecore embeddable form framework.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah, if I can add to what Manoj said, yeah, I mean, basically, Sitecore form, what we use here in Headless is nothing different what you may have used in your XP or XM solution. But it comes with a little limitation that you can only implement the Sitecore forms with if your application is running on SSR and with REST layout. But it is not feasible every time that your entire application runs on SSR. So if you have to switch to SSG option, then you have to opt either for embeddable forms or you have to choose some third-party integration with the forms. It could be anything, Bar.form or Salesforce forms or anything.
Okay, clear now. Thank you. We still have time, so if anybody has other questions, you could ask.
Hey, Amni, I just joined late. Is this going to be uploaded in YouTube?
Yes, Balaji. Yes, it'll be uploaded. This by the end of the day today.
Okay,
But
sounds good.
if
Thank
you have
you.
any queries, you could ask now. But it's just done based on SSG and SSR forms. So we are actually open for questions now. So, but I do share the link with you. Not to worry.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to attend and I had other production issue. I just hopped on just to see if I can join. Thank you though.
No worries. No worries. Okay, guys. If you no other queries, then we are good to drop off. And Manoj, thank you so much for such a good session on forms because even I learned new things today. So I think it's really great session. Thank you, team. We'll meet in another
Thank you.
session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.